Welcome to the Coach Debbie Potts Show, where high performers learn how to stop guessing and start aging stronger, not slower. Your host is Coach Debbie Potts, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, metabolic health coach, and host of this show. Here, we dive into the why behind fatigue, stubborn weight, hormone chaos, gut issues, and declining performance. Using real data, functional lab testing, metabolism analysis, and simple daily habits that actually move the needle. Whether you're an endurance athlete, an executive, or simply committed to becoming your strongest future you, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hey, it's Debbie Potts. I'm the host of the show called Coach Debbie Potts Show. Ideally, I wanted to call the show the new name to be The Fit and Healthy Athlete from the Inside Out at a Cellular Level, but that's a mouthful. So I'm just sticking with everything, saying Coach Debbie Potts for my social media, the YouTube channel, the podcast, just put it all together. Short form, I'm not really just a coach. I am a FDN practitioner and a functional nutritional therapy practitioner, where really that just means to me, I'm a holistic health practitioner, a health investigator, as well as a coach, a personal trainer. I did endurance sports, competed in my age group, starting in my 20s until I got adrenal exhaustion when I was 42, and then tried racing again. And so since 2015, I've been on a mission to be educated as a holistic health practitioner to help be that guide for other people that are similar to me. High performers, overachievers, tend to thrive on more is better, and they don't pay attention to those red flags that our body is telling us. So I've been doing a series of signals, not just signals we are sending the body, but what signals is our body giving back to us. And as I get older, I'm more focused on how we can be fit and healthy from the inside out at a cellular level. Knowing what we can do in middle age, as now I'm in my 50s somehow, even though I feel that I'm in my 40s and probably act that I'm in my 40s, I want to do whatever I can control in middle age to be the best self that I can be in the future. So I call that creating your own personalized future you blueprint. And in order to do that, we want to work on the foundations, work on what I call the flow method, improving the terrain, the internal environment, and then do functional lab testing. While we are waiting for the functional labs, as well as even a genetic test, we are working on the drainage pathways, vagus nerve activation. So improving that vagus nerve is strong vagal tone. We are working on proper digestion and breakdown, good stomach acid, good pancreas releasing digest enzymes, the bile being triggered to be released, the gallbladder to release the bile, and good liver detox pathways, good breathing patterns, as well as improving our quality of sleep, how you start your day, how you end your day, really optimizing restorative sleep, as well as managing our stressors externally that we can be aware of, how we respond to stressors with mindful clues and strategies, as just taking a moment to breathe and slow down. Inhale through the nose and really longer exhale out. And you'll feel that sense of reset. So as I focus on understanding what can we do today to be even better tomorrow, this is a rabbit hole series that not everyone will appreciate. It's more for me, this big aha patterns I see doing lab testing with clients and looking at updated research of the microbiome and the signaling that changes as we age. This will try to simplify, but it's to me more big aha as a health investigator, where I'm working on how to create your future you blueprint by collecting clues, getting data, looking at your nutritional therapy intake form, signs and symptoms, looking at your current food and mood exercise journal. What are you doing now? Let's meet you where you are in your journey and figure out where are your identified areas of opportunity based on testing and not guessing what they are, and correlating all this information together to find patterns. So what if one of the biggest reasons you are struggling with energy issues, body composition, recovery, hormones, inflammation, digestion, just healthy aging? What if it has nothing to do with the calories you're taking in, focusing on the macros, what supplements you're taking, or even maybe a little bit about microbiome? I keep coming back to this thought of what if the problem is actually a communication breakdown? As we get older, I'm getting more curious. And what if a lot of these issues we are experiencing are going down to what's happening at a cellular level? So welcome back to my show. I hope you appreciate these rabbit hole podcasts. If not, share them with someone that might enjoy them, and check out the YouTube channel, Coach Debbie Potts, and just hit subscribe for alerts of the short videos I will be producing every week. Because the more I investigate functional labs, do metabolism testing at rest and exercise, look at genetics, stool testing, blood chemistry, health histories of high performers, the more I realize we might be looking at the wrong pieces. We're looking in the wrong place. So let's talk about this odd subject. You're probably wondering what I'm talking about is bile, because this is what is really fascinating. New research, people often just think as bile to help digest fat. That's true, but it does other things. This is similar to saying that your smartphone is only useful for making phone calls. Bile acids are one of the most powerful communication systems in our human body. And what I'm learning more as I go down these rabbit holes is the role of bile, because I kept seeing lab results and stool testing, correlating that with blood chemistry pattern. Look at genetics, bile acid metabolism, and secondary bile metabolism, bile acids. So bile actually act also as signaling molecules between the brain, the nervous system, the liver, the gallbladder, the microbiome, the immune system, and the mitochondria. And if this communication network breaks down, you can end up what we call as FDN practitioners, metabolic chaos. And I say, metabolic chaos on the inside while we look healthy on the outside. So I want to teach you today how I'm thinking as a health investigator. We as FDN practitioners and nutritional therapy practitioners are not diagnosing any diseases. We're not labeling anything. We're not symptom chasing. We're not treating one lab result. We are root cause investigators. We need to follow the clues and look for patterns. So a lot of people just see symptoms, but what I'm seeing more as I do this longer and start being more curious and let my mind be zooming out to zoom in before I just do automatic treat this, treat that. I'm thinking about communication. Let's think about our body for a moment. As I keep saying, we're constantly sending signals. Our body's constantly sending signals. The brain, the hormones, our gut, our microbiome, the mitochondria. But what I'm curious about is what's happening under the hood at a cellular level when these signals become distorted. When I review clients' cases and I look at their symptoms, chronic fatigue, weight loss resistance, hormone dysfunction, brain fog, poor recovery, bloating, food sensitivities, blood sugar instability. I don't ask, what disease is this? What do we call this? What label should I give it? I'm thinking, all right, let's work backwards. Where did the communication start to break down? And when? One of the biggest places I find breakdown is bile acid signaling. But it doesn't just start there. It's what happened before that leads to poor signaling. So let's back up. Digestion begins in the brain. So if we start at the top, food does not begin digesting just in the stomach, the organ, the stomach. Digestion actually begins in the brain. So before food ever enters your mouth, the nervous system is actually starting to work to prepare your digestive tract. It's the vagus nerve that we talk about all the time that is sending signals to the rest of the organs. Remember, systems all need to work together. We want to create that orchestra to play the beautiful metabolic harmony. Food is coming. Prepare digestion. Get ready to release stomach acid. Release the enzymes. Coordinate your motility. Prepare the bile. That's why I always think of digestion as if you did track and field growing up as I did, you have the baton relay. I run a 400. The next person gets baton. And it goes on and on and on until you finish your relay. And this is more my insight of what we need to do differently as we age. I call it the flow method. F of flow method means free the nervous system. Because if your body perceives any danger, your digestion becomes secondary. As you may know, especially as high-performing individuals, athletes, when we are in stress mode, our physiology shifts from rest, digest, and repair to survival, to protect you, to adapt to what's going on. The body doesn't care about digesting your organic grass-fed steak when it thinks a tiger's chasing you. And we forget about that. And as high performers, often people think they're fit and they're eating healthy, they're doing all the right things on the outside. But on the inside, I guarantee you're not. Now, most people think protein digestion is separate from bile production. What's interesting as I dive down these rabbit holes is that the body doesn't separate these processes. Protein digestion breaks the protein into amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks required for many things, including healthy bile metabolism. So when protein enters the stomach, hyaluronic acid unfolds protein structure. Pepsin in the stomach begins digestion. Pancreatic enzymes continue to break down later on the food into the small intestine. They release different enzymes when they get the right signal, and amino acids become available. Now, the liver has the raw materials it needs. There's 2 amino acids that become incredibly important. And we've talked about this. One, in regards to sleep, is glycine and taurine. Without these 2 amino acids, healthy bile metabolism becomes much harder. Think about that. If someone has low stomach acid, which so many clients do, they may not only struggle with protein digestion, but they're actually struggling to produce and utilize bile efficiently. That creates a downstream cascade. Think about this order of operations. We eat protein, we chew our food, it goes into the stomach, the organ, but we can't break it down because we don't have enough acidity in our stomach. Taking antacids and PPIs makes that even worse. We need acidic environment, say 1.5 to 2 pH scale, not 5 on a pH. You don't want less acidic. You want more acidic. Now, so if we have poor protein digestion, we're not going to get the amino acids from that food. That's why I take Body Health Perfect Aminos 2-3 times a day, because it's not protein that we're trying to get. Our body is needing essential amino acids, not essential protein. What we're really trying to get from that protein are all the essential amino acids. So if we have less amino acids available, we are going to struggle with making bile. So it's called poor bile conjugation. If we can't make bile, we're not going to have good bile flow. We're not going to have good fat digestion. And then the bile is not able to be used for signaling. So now we're getting closer to this root cause. I dive down a deeper rabbit hole. The liver. The liver actually takes cholesterol, which people think is so low, lower is better. They think cholesterol is bad. But the liver takes cholesterol and then transforms cholesterol into primary bile acids. The two major players of bile acids are cholic acid, or Ca, and then a big word, I don't know how to say, chenodeoxycholic acid. So CDCA. Better think of it that way. Now, what's really amazing, the liver attaches glycine or taurine. This is called conjugation. Think of it as placing a shipping label on a package. Think of the package is bile acid, but it won't go anywhere. Without the label on that package, the delivery becomes inefficient. So the package is bile acid and the shipping labeled, it is glycine or it's labeled taurine. So with the label on, then bile acids can move throughout the digestive tract and perform their jobs. So we want to look at the role of the gallbladder, and we've talked many times what happens when people don't have a gallbladder. Think about order of operations when we start to even see food and smell it, and it goes into the mouth, and then we chew that food till it becomes smaller pieces or even liquidy, and then the food goes through that stomach, becomes chyme, and then that food from the stomach goes into the small intestine, and then we want to make sure, we just talked about the stomach acid needs to be acidic enough, and that food coming out needs to be not so acidic. So there's an order of operations that the innate intelligence has to raise that pH after that food comes out, acidic level. We want to have CCK be stimulated to release bile from the gallbladder, and then the pancreas is alerted to release digest enzymes. Now, the body's pretty amazing if you think about what it does. When the food enters the small intestine, this step depends heavily on what happened upstream in the stomach. Again, I'm saying this over and over again because this is the missing part. It starts with north to south, working on the food when we start to see and smell it, but also that vagus nerve, and going to alerting the vagus nerve to release the stomach to release acid. If the stomach acid is too low, now you know protein is not properly broken down into amino acids that we need to use. Signaling to the gallbladder also becomes less strong, right? So we talk about all of this signaling and how things change as we get older, or the signals are not being sent. If we have an impaired signal to the gallbladder, the bile release can be a problem. The stomach needs to be acidic enough to trigger this cascade that leads to bile flow. So supporting healthy stomach acid, we'll talk to Dr. Stephen Wright soon, or actually he's not a doctor, more of a citizen scientist. Healthy stomach acid may involve slowing down at meals, which I guarantee you everyone can do better at. Chewing your food thoroughly, again, everyone can do more of, and it's free. Slowing down, chew your food, reduce chronic stress, breathe. Long exhale. Avoid excessive fluid intake during meals, and in some cases, we might need to work as a practitioner role, as I do with clients, to support digestion, as even adding bitters, apple cider vinegar, or targeted supplementation. We can do a baking soda challenge to get kind of an idea of what's going on. We can do a betaine HCl challenge. So it's really looking at getting fat and protein properly digested. Hormone CCK is released when the partially digested food from the stomach comes into the small intestine. It's called chyme. The fats and the proteins especially are the focus here to get them broken down. They enter the first part of the small intestine called the duodenum. From the stomach goes small intestine. This triggers specialized cells in the small intestine to signal its release. Short form for another long word, CCK is sending the signal to the gallbladder. It's your job. It's handing the baton to the gallbladder saying, release that bile. The hormone is released by the small intestine. CCK is released by the small intestine when it has response, a trigger, that there's fats and proteins entering from the stomach. So another key messenger, this is helping send the message that digestion is underway and support is needed. So then CCK gives a signal because fat and protein was there, mostly fat gives a signal. The gallbladder will contract. At the same time, what's called the sphincter of Oddi relaxes, and this allows bile to flow smoothly from the gallbladder into the small intestine. Then the bile enters the digestive tract. Once this bile is released, it acts as a natural detergent. Bile helps break large fat droplets into smaller ones, and this is called emulsification. This dramatically increases the surface area for digest enzymes as lipase to do their job. This dramatically increases the surface area for digestive enzymes to do their job. So now fat digestion can occur. So the pancreatic enzymes can efficiently break down fats into fatty acids, monoglycerides, making them small enough to be absorbed through the intestinal lining. Fat-soluble vitamins can then be absorbed. Vitamins that we talk about that often people are deficient in and we need for antioxidants, vitamin A and vitamin E and vitamin D and vitamin K are fat-soluble vitamins, so A, D, E, and K. Easy to remember. These fat-soluble vitamins rely on this process to be properly absorbed and utilized by the body. So without adequate bile flow, deficiencies can develop even if the intake is sufficient. So think about that. If we see low vitamin D, we have bone issues, low vitamin E, vitamin A, really high issues, antioxidants for vitamin E. That's always the why. Because they're low in their labs doesn't mean, oh, I need to take another supplement. Yes, in the meantime, while we figure out the terrain and what's going on. Now, a big next step here, cholesterol. Cholesterol can be recycled. Cholesterol is not evil. Bile acids are reabsorbed further down into the intestine. And this is where it gets interesting. I dove into this. I'm like, wait, we always know about this first part I just talked about. Now, here's the part no one really talks about. Bile acids are reabsorbed further down into the intestine and returned to the liver through what's called the enterohepatic circulation. This allows the body to conserve resources and maintain balance. But what I wanted to know is why? How does that happen? This next process that's tripping me out, fascinating how the body works. This all depends heavily on the health and diversity of your gut, your microbiome. And this is what's changing everything. And I have a text to my friend Martha Carlin and talk about this because I'm just reading her book, her new book called Collective, and talking about gut health and bioacids, the microbiome. I'm going to message Karan of Microbiome Labs, who started a new biome practitioner program I'm going to do because this is freaking amazing. Just because you're fit and healthy, you're exercising, doing all the right things, you're not obviously doing the inside stuff unless you do testing. You might, but a lot of people just take way too many supplements, not the right order of operations. And we're getting labs from our doctor once a year. I'd rather you do them 2-3 times a year. And I have a new company I'm going to test, a home test that I'm going to video next week because I wasn't hydrated enough. So my blood, I just did the blood draw at home Monday and it was all sticky and gooey. So don't do it dehydrated. But it's looking at the clues and patterns we can see now. I might feel fine, but could I be better? Are you adjusting to feeling how you feel now? This is your normal, but what if you could be better? And that's where I really find a health optimizer is going to want to know, what can I do better, be better at? What can I do today to be better tomorrow? So that's when I get into this bile acids. But remember, it's not just the bile, what happens before that I just went over. Once the bile reaches the intestines, What's new to me is specialized bacteria begin to modify it. The liver starts the conversation, but the microbiome finishes it. Certain bacteria can contain specialized enzymes. So bacteria that we can look at on a Tiny Health or GI map: Clostridium, Eubacterium, Platua, Roseberia, Rhumicoccus, and members of the Lachnospiraceae, whatever you call it, family. What I'm finding is that these bacteria act as metabolic engineers. What they are doing is taking primary bile acids created by the liver and chemically modifying them into secondary bile acids that carry entirely different biological instructions. How they do this depends on specific enzymes they produce. Enzymes as bile salt hydrolase remove glycine and or taurine from the bile acids. Then other enzymes further reshape the structure of these molecules. These changes may seem small, but they dramatically alter how these bile acids behave in the body. Why does this matter to you? Well, maybe you don't care. That's my job. But these newly formed secondary bile acids are not just helping with digestion. This goes with what I'm diving into: signaling. These secondary bile acids are acting as signaling molecules that communicate with receptors throughout the body. They're influencing metabolism, inflammation, energy production, hormone regulation. So without this microbial transformation, many of these signals never get sent. It's like you're sending all these text messages on your phone, but it's in airplane mode. Your Wi-Fi is off, or you have poor connection. The signal's not strong enough. So the clues I look for in a client now include low levels of secondary bile acids on a stool test, signs of poor microbial diversity, sluggish digestion, or symptoms as bloating, fat malabsorption, low energy. These clues suggest that the microbiome may not effectively convert primary bile acids into their more active forms, which can contribute to a breakdown in the metabolic communication. The first enzyme that changed the message is called bile salt hydrolase, BSH. This enzyme removes glycine and taurine. This is called deconjugation. Remember at the beginning we talked about conjugating into bile acids or the glycine and taurine. Now we need to look at the microbiome as opening the package. Now we have another enzyme that converts the cholic acid into deoxycholic acid and cenodeocholic acid into litholic acid. And it doesn't matter the names, I can't even say them right, but really these are secondary bile acids. And this is where digestion becomes signaling. For decades, researchers thought secondary bile acids were just waste products. Now we know something different. Secondary bile acids function as metabolic hormones. And I just figured this out diving into all this research, going, why do I keep seeing this on the lab test? Because it's a marker on the Tiny Health report. Secondary bile acids bind to receptors. They send instructions and they influence physiology. So there's two receptors I'm learning about. Think of them as a metabolic traffic controller, FXR. FXR helps regulate blood sugar, insulin sensitivity, cholesterol metabolism, inflammation regulation, and bile production feedback. So FXR is constantly asking, how should metabolism adapt? And the other one is an energy production receptor. It's called TGR5, and this influences GLP-1 secretion. Heard about that lately? Mitochondria activity, thyroid hormone activation, energy expenditure, fat oxidation. So if we think of TGR5 as an energy sensor, when we think about everything working together to create metabolic harmony, everything's activated appropriately, the body receives signals that support resiliency and healthy aging. So this is where the entire story comes together for you, why I wanted to share this nerdy episode. When I don't see low secondary bile acids, or when I do see them, I said that wrong, I don't think about what supplements we should use. So many people are on too many supplements at the wrong time. And they're all good, but we have to phase them in so you don't have supplement fatigue and overwhelming the body. What I first want to focus on is that terrain, the environment. Why are we not creating the right signal? So let's investigate your timeline, your history, your signs and symptoms. What sources of chronic stress do you have externally and internally? Are you in sympathetic dominance? Do you have poor vagal tone? Do you have low stomach acid? Poor protein digestion? So we're not getting the essential amino acids, including the ones we talked about today, and bile acids, conjugating them, glycine and taurine. Do you have reduction in bile production, gallbladder function, slow motility, reduced microbiome diversity? This is the difference between symptom management and root cause investigation. The lab result isn't the problem. The lab result, to me, is a clue. And we need to figure out what is the body telling us. It's giving us these clues. Let's put this all together. I always love to zoom out and really reflect on everything, how we see patterns, and putting all the conversations I've had on this rabbit hole episode, how we can get these clues and see how they fit into your puzzle, a much bigger picture. Let's go to the vagus nerve. Vagus nerve, plays a central role in this communication network. The vagus nerve acts as a bridge between the brain and the gut. Remember, the brain of the vagus nerve messages are only 20% brain to gut. The vagus nerve messages called afferent are 80% nerve fibers are afferent from the gut to the brain. When the vagus nerve is strong vagal tone, the body can shift into a parasympathetic state that supports digestion, bile flow, enzyme release, overall metabolic efficiency. But when the vagus nerve is impaired, we have poor vagal tone, the communication becomes fragmented and the digestion system is not functioning at optimal level. Remember, the baton relay, order of operations. The entire digestive cascade can and probably will break down. So if we look at a cellular level, tying in what I've learned over, 10 years ago from R.E. Winton's work on his energy blueprint and Dr. Robert Navio's cell danger response. The role of the mitochondria are not just making ATP, they're constantly sensing the environment and responding through what's known as, I've talked about many times, cell danger response. When the body perceives any stress from toxins, infections, poor nutrition, chronic physiological, psychological, different stressors, the mitochondria shift from energy production to energy body protection. This shift of the role of the mitochondria alters our signaling, reduces metabolic efficiency, and contributes to what we see as fatigue, inflammation, dysfunction. This is where the terrain theory becomes essential. Instead of focusing only on pathogens or isolated symptoms on your lab report, I prefer to look at the internal environment, the terrain. The quality of your terrain is shaped by your lifestyle, stress levels, nutrition, sleep, movement, toxin exposure, emotional health. All these factors influence how well your body communicates, how well it adapts and heals. Within this terrain, the bile acid signaling network becomes a powerful indicator of your overall system health. How's the health of your computer, your operating system? Do you need to reboot, reset, start over, recalibrate? Going back to our conversation today, when bile acids are properly produced by the liver, when the gallbladder is properly signaled to release bile, when the microbiome is transforming them into secondary bile acids, and the signaling is effective, we're creating metabolic harmony. We can coordinate metabolism, immune function, energy production, communication between the systems. When this network is disrupted, high performers as yourself can experience metabolic chaos beneath the surface, even if they appear outwardly healthy. And this is a deeper story behind what I'm looking at, the hidden bile acid signaling network, and why it can matter for your future you blueprint. The liver starts the message. The microbiome modifies the message. The immune system listens. The mitochondria will respond, and the nervous system coordinates everything. It's a conductor. And think of the train theory in action. This is why I work with clients first to free the nervous system, improve their lymph flow, improve oxygen flow, nitric oxide signaling, support waste removal, support motility, bile flow. Because when flow improves, digestion improves, protein digestion improves, amino acid availability will then improve. If we have those amino acids, bile production improves. We have that glycine. Microbiome, the conversion improves to secondary bile acids. The metabolic signaling will improve. And end result, hopefully, the body receives better instructions. So the bigger question is, here's what I'm thinking. What signals is your body sending back to you? We've spent this episode and many others talking about the signals your body's sending. But is your body telling you feeling fatigued? You're having brain fog, bloating, gas, you feel full, you're not hungry, or you wake up in the morning and you just don't feel good? Blood sugar instability, you just can't lose weight, you feel stiff, inflamed? Those are symptoms, and they may not be the problem. They just could be messages. The goal is to teach ourselves how to listen, because our future you is built on the signals we create today. And perhaps one of the most overlooked signaling systems, the entire body begins with something people don't think of. The vagus nerve to the stomach acid to the bile and downstream effects. So thanks for listening to the show today. If you enjoy this rabbit hole episode, if you want to nerd out with me and understand what's going on under the hood, please share it with a friend that's a high performer that's struggling to get results. Visit debbiepotts.net to get a free 20-minute discovery call with me to learn about my Future You Blueprint Signature Program, Pinoy metabolism testing, or just my approach to root cause investigation for high performers who want to thrive as they age. So I look forward to hearing from you, and please let me know what you are doing today to be better tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the Coach Debbie Potts Show. If today's episode sparked a light bulb moment, that's your sign to stop guessing and start building your personalized Future You blueprint. You can learn more or book a discovery call at www.debbiepotts.net. Be sure to follow the show on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search Coach Debbie Potts. 2 T's. If this episode helped you, please subscribe, rate, and review. It's how we help more people age with strength, energy, and clarity. Until next time, remember, age is inevitable. How you age is not.